Apache woman was dragged to his ranch, but the rancher wasn't a bad guy she thought he was. Her world was one of movement, listening, and watching. Every sound mattered. Every shadow could mean safety or danger. She had grown up learning how to read the land the way others read words. Tracks in the dust, broken twigs, the behavior of birds, these were signs that helped her people survive. She was not old, but she was not a child either. Life had aged her faster than time should have. Loss had done that. She had seen too many seasons of fear, too many faces disappear, too many camps abandoned. Her people had learned to live lightly on the land, never staying too long, never trusting peace to last. The world around them had changed, and not for the better. On the morning everything changed, the air felt heavy. The kind of stillness that comes before trouble. She noticed it before anyone else did. The horses were restless. The birds had gone quiet. Her instincts told her something was wrong, but warnings came too late. Chaos broke out suddenly. Shouting echoed across the open land. People scattered. Dust filled the air, making it hard to see clearly. In the confusion, she was knocked to the ground. Her head struck a rock, and for a moment everything spun. When she tried to rise, her strength failed her. Pain shot through her leg. Around her, shapes moved quickly, too quickly. She reached for the small knife she always carried, but her fingers were weak. Someone grabbed her arm. She fought, but her body did not obey her the way it normally did. She expected cruelty. That expectation had been taught to her by experience. Instead, what followed was something she did not understand. She was lifted, not thrown, carried, not dragged across the ground. Still, fear flooded her. Being taken anywhere by a stranger was danger enough. She struggled until her strength ran out, then went still, her heart pounding. When she opened her eyes again, the sun was lower. She was lying on a blanket, her leg wrapped tightly. The smell of water and herbs filled the air. She turned her head sharply and saw a man standing several steps away. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed like a rancher. His skin was burned dark by the sun. His face was worn, lined with age and worry. Fear rushed through her again. She pushed herself up, ignoring the pain, backing away as far as she could. The man raised his hands slowly, palms open, and stepped back even farther. He did not speak at first. His silence felt strange, almost louder than words. She watched him closely, searching for signs of threat. He carried a weapon, but it rested against the wall, out of reach. He did not move toward her. Instead, he placed a cup of water on the ground and stepped away again. His movements were careful, almost unsure. She did not drink. Trust was not something she could give easily. She stayed alert through the night, barely sleeping, listening for footsteps, for the sound of a door closing. When exhaustion finally pulled her under, her dreams were filled with running and falling, with voices she could not answer. The ranch was quiet, too quiet. She expected shouting, orders, or other people. But there was only the sound of wind brushing against wooden walls and the distant low call of cattle. When morning came, sunlight crept through the open doorway. The man was already awake, tending to chores, moving about the land as if she were not there. That unsettled her even more. She had prepared herself for cruelty. She had prepared herself for harsh words and rough hands. She had not prepared for being ignored. She tested her leg carefully. It hurt, but she could stand. Slowly, she made her way toward the door. Freedom lay beyond it. The open land called to her. She took one step outside before his voice finally broke the silence. "Your leg won't take you far yet." His voice was calm, low, and careful, as if he feared startling her. She turned, ready to run, but he did not move. He stayed where he was, leaning against a fence, his eyes on the ground rather than on her. "You can leave when you're strong," he said. "I won't stop you." She did not believe him. Words were easy. Actions were truth. She returned inside, her mind racing. Why had he brought her here? Why help her at all? She searched the small cabin for answers. There were no chains, no locks on the door, no signs of other captives, only simple furniture, tools, and signs of a hard-working life. Days passed slowly. Each one felt like walking across thin ice. She spoke little. He spoke even less. He left food and water, then gave her space. When strangers passed near the ranch, he made sure she was hidden, never calling attention to her presence. She noticed small things. He did not mock her clothing or her silence. He did not touch her unless necessary, and even then he warned her before doing so. When her leg worsened one night, he cleaned the wound with care, his hands steady, his eyes focused only on the task. Confusion began to mix with her fear. She had been taught that men like him were the enemy, that they took land, broke families, and showed no mercy. Yet this man seemed burdened, not proud. His eyes carried something heavy, regret, perhaps, or memory. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky red, she saw him standing alone, staring toward the horizon. His shoulders sagged, as if the weight of the land pressed down on him. For a brief moment, she wondered if he felt as lost as she did. Still, she did not trust him. Trust, once broken, does not heal easily. She remained alert, planning escape, waiting for the moment her body would allow it. But deep inside, a quiet question formed, one she did not yet dare to answer. What if this man was not what she thought? That question stayed with her as night fell again, wrapping the ranch in silence. The land outside was vast and dangerous, but inside these walls, something unexpected had taken root. Not safety, not trust, but uncertainty. And sometimes, uncertainty is the first step toward truth. The days that followed were filled with tension that never fully left the air. Even as her legs slowly grew stronger, the Apache woman remained guarded. Every morning she woke before the sun, listening. She counted his footsteps, learned the pattern of his movements, memorized the sounds of the ranch. She trusted nothing completely. Survival had taught her that calm moments were often followed by sudden danger. She watched the rancher closely, studying him the way she studied the land. He rose early, worked until the heat became too strong, then rested briefly before returning to his tasks. He spoke to the animals more than he spoke to her. His voice was steady with them, gentle but firm. He never raised it. That alone surprised her. Food appeared regularly, simple meals, carefully placed near the doorway so she would not feel cornered. Sometimes he left fruit or bread wrapped in cloth, as if afraid even the sight of his hands might frighten her. She hated that part of herself, the part that flinched at every movement, yet she could not help it. Fear lived deep inside her bones. She tried to leave again on the fourth day. Her leg felt strong enough, or so she told herself. She waited until he was out of sight, then stepped beyond the cabin, breathing in the open air. Each step sent pain through her leg, but she pushed forward. Freedom was worth pain. Freedom was worth anything. She made it only a short distance before her strength faded. The land spun and she stumbled. She expected him to shout. She expected him to grab her. Instead, she heard his voice behind her, calm but firm. "You'll tear it open," he said. "Let me help." She turned sharply, anger flaring. "Stay back," she warned in her own language, though she knew he would not understand the words. Her tone carried the meaning well enough. He stopped instantly. Lowered himself to one knee several steps away, making himself smaller. "I won't touch you," he said, "but you won't make it far like this." She hated that he was right, hated that her body betrayed her. After a long moment, she sat down hard in the dust, frustration burning behind her eyes. He waited until she nodded slightly before moving closer. Even then, he kept his distance, offering a stick to help her stand rather than his hands. Back inside the cabin, silence returned. But it felt different now, thicker. He changed the bandage on her leg carefully, explaining what he was doing even though he knew she might not understand every word. His voice was steady, patient. When he finished, he stepped away again, as if reminding her that she still controlled the space around her. That night, sleep came harder than usual. Her thoughts would not rest. The world she believed in no longer fit neatly around her. He did not act like the stories she had heard. He did not act like the men she had seen before. That did not make him safe, but it made him confusing. The next morning, she surprised herself by speaking first. One word, spoken quietly, testing the air between them. Her name. He looked up slowly, as if afraid to scare her into silence again. He repeated the sound carefully, trying to say it right. He failed, and a small, embarrassed smile crossed his face. The expression was so human, so unguarded, that it caught her off guard. "My name is Daniel," he said, touching his chest. She nodded once. Names mattered. Names were power. Sharing them was not nothing. From that moment on, the distance between them shifted slightly. Not much, just enough to let small things pass between them, a word here. A nod there. He showed her where water was stored. She showed him how to tie a binding that held better. Neither mentioned it. Neither thanked the other. Strangers came by the ranch one afternoon, riders moving fast, eyes sharp, voices loud. She froze the moment she heard them. Old fear surged through her, stronger than before. Without a word, the rancher motioned her toward a hidden space behind the cabin, concealed by stacked supplies and cloth. He waited until she was fully hidden before stepping out to meet them. She listened, heart pounding. The voices outside were rough, impatient. They asked questions. He answered calmly. He did not mention her, did not glance toward her hiding place even once. When the riders finally left, her knees nearly gave out with relief. That night, she looked at him differently. Not with trust, but with something closer to understanding. He could have given her away easily. It would have made his life simpler. Instead, he chose the harder path. Still, she kept her guard up. She asked herself again and again what he wanted. People always wanted something. Kindness often carried a price. Days passed. Her leg healed more. She moved more freely around the ranch, though she never strayed far. She learned the shape of the land, the safe paths, the places where the ground dipped or rose. Planning never stopped. She noticed the way he watched the horizon when the sun went down, the way his hands paused sometimes as if remembering something painful. Once, she saw him stare at an old mark on his arm, his face tightening with regret. She did not ask. She had learned long ago that some questions opened wounds better left closed. One evening, a storm rolled in unexpectedly. Wind tore across the land, rain pounding the roof hard enough to shake the walls. Thunder cracked overhead. She tensed, memories rushing back of nights spent hiding, running, losing people she loved. She curled inward, trying to make herself small. The rancher noticed. Without a word, he lit a lantern and placed it nearby, its warm glow pushing back the shadows. He sat across the room, far enough away to give her space, close enough to remind her she was not alone. He did not speak. He did not move. He simply stayed. Something inside her shifted then, not trust, not forgiveness, but recognition. Pain, she realized, was not owned by one people alone. Loss did not choose sides. When the storm passed, the silence felt different again. Softer, she knew she would leave soon. Her body was healing. The land was calling her back. But the world no longer seemed as simple as before. The line between enemy and ally had blurred, just enough to trouble her sleep. She still believed danger could come at any moment. She still planned her escape. But now another thought lingered beside those plans, one she could not ignore. What if staying a little longer would reveal the truth? That question followed her into the night, as the wind carried it across the quiet ranch, waiting for an answer neither of them was ready to give. As the days moved forward, the space between the Apache woman and the rancher continued to change in small, quiet ways. Nothing happened suddenly. There were no big promises or emotional talks. Instead, understanding grew through moments that seemed ordinary on the surface but carried deep meaning underneath. Her leg healed enough that she could walk without pain most of the time. With movement came restlessness. Staying inside the cabin no longer felt necessary, but leaving still felt risky. She began helping with small tasks around the ranch, not because he asked, but because stillness made her thoughts too loud. She carried water, gathered firewood, and cleaned tools. The work reminded her of home, of being useful, of being alive. The rancher noticed but did not comment. He accepted her help the same way he accepted the weather without question. Sometimes he showed her how to do things his way. Other times, he watched her methods with curiosity and quietly adopted them. Neither pointed it out. Mutual respect formed without being spoken. One afternoon, while they worked near the edge of the land, she noticed something unusual. A small mound of stones arranged carefully beneath a tree. On top rested a simple carved marker, worn smooth by time. She stopped walking. "What is that?" she asked slowly, choosing her words with care. He followed her gaze, his face tightened just slightly. "A child," he said after a pause, "didn't make it through winter." She said nothing. Loss needed no explanation. She knelt and placed a small stone beside the marker, a quiet gesture of honor. He watched, eyes lowered. When she stood again, he nodded once deeply, as if thanking her for something he could not say. Later that same day, they encountered trouble. Two men approached the ranch near sunset. They rode hard, dust clinging to their clothes, their eyes sharp and restless. The Apache woman froze the moment she saw them. Her body reacted before her mind could. Fear rushed through her veins like fire. She stepped back instinctively, searching for a place to hide. The rancher noticed immediately. He moved in front of her without thinking, placing himself between her and the men. His posture was calm but firm. A silent message was sent. The men greeted him loudly, their voices careless. They asked questions about the land, about travelers, about rumors of people passing through. Their eyes drifted toward the cabin, then back to him. "She's not from around here," one of them said, nodding toward her direction even though she stood partly hidden. "She's under my roof," the rancher replied evenly. That's all you need to know. The air grew tense. For a moment, she feared the situation would turn dangerous. Her hand tightened around a small stone she kept hidden, ready to defend herself if needed. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure they could hear it, but the rancher did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He simply stood his ground. After a long, uncomfortable pause, the men lost interest. They muttered among themselves, turned their horses, and rode away. Only when they were far gone did she allow herself to breathe again. That night she could not sleep. The image of the rancher standing between her and danger replayed in her mind again and again. He had not hesitated. He had not looked to her for permission. He had chosen. In the quiet hours before dawn, she finally asked the question that had been growing inside her. "Why?" she said softly. He sat across from her, firelight casting shadows on his face. He knew what she meant. "Because I've seen what happens when people look away," he said. "And I won't do that again." Again, the word stayed with her. She waited. Silence stretched between them. Then slowly he spoke. He told her about his past, about the years he spent following orders he did not understand at first and later could not accept, about the faces that stayed with him long after the noise faded, about the moment he realized he could no longer be part of something that broke more than it built. "I left," he said simply, "walked away. This land is all I have now." He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not try to explain himself away. He spoke like someone who had already judged himself harshly enough. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said nothing for a long time. Her people taught that stories carried weight. Once spoken, they could not be taken back. At last, she said, "Pain does not belong to one side." He nodded. "No, it doesn't." From that moment on, something settled between them, not friendship, not trust, but truth. The following days were quieter. The land returned to its slow rhythm. But the world beyond the ranch felt closer now. Danger no longer felt like a distant threat. It felt near. Watching, one morning she found him packing supplies, food, water, a blanket. "You are leaving?" she asked. "No," he said. "You are." Her chest tightened. She had expected this, planned for it, yet hearing it spoken aloud stirred something unexpected inside her. "The land is getting restless," he continued. "It's safer if you go now. I'll take you part of the way." She studied his face, searching for hesitation. There was none. Only concern. That night, as she prepared for the journey ahead, she walked the edge of the ranch one last time. The land felt different now, less hostile, more familiar. She realized how much she had learned here, not about him, but about herself. She had survived fear without becoming it. Before sunrise, they set out together. The air was cool, the sky pale with new light. They walked in silence for a long time, each lost in thought. At a narrow stretch of land where paths divided, he stopped. "This is as far as I go," he said. She nodded. She adjusted the supplies on her back, then hesitated. Slowly, she reached into a small pouch and removed a simple token, a strip of woven fiber worn from time. "For protection," she said. He accepted it carefully, as if it were something fragile. They did not embrace. They did not promise to meet again. Some connections did not need those things. As she turned and walked away, she felt the weight of the past behind her and the unknown ahead. But for the first time in a long while, that unknown did not feel like pure fear. It felt like possibility. And behind her, the rancher watched until she disappeared into the land, carrying with her a truth neither of them would ever forget. The journey back toward her people did not go as smoothly as either of them had hoped. After only a short distance, signs in the land warned her that danger was close. The ground showed fresh tracks, not animal tracks but human ones, too many, moving fast. Her steps slowed. Every lesson she had learned since childhood rose sharply in her mind. She stopped and listened. The wind carried faint sounds, voices, metal against leather, the soft rhythm of horses. Her heart tightened. She knew these signs too well. Going forward would be risky, turning back might be worse. For the first time since leaving the ranch, doubt shook her resolve. She thought of the rancher standing alone on his land, believing she was already safe. The idea of leading trouble back to him felt heavy, yet the land ahead offered no shelter, no clear path. After a long moment, she turned around. She moved carefully, choosing routes that hid her tracks as much as possible. By the time the ranch came into view, the sun was already high. Smoke rose faintly from the chimney. Relief washed over her, followed quickly by worry. If danger was near, it could already be too late. She reached the edge of the ranch and froze. Several riders stood near the main structure. Their horses shifted impatiently. Voices carried clearly now, sharp and demanding. her breath caught. She slipped behind a rise in the land, crouching low, watching. The rancher stood before them, calm on the outside, though she could see tension in his shoulders. The riders questioned him closely. They spoke of people moving through the area, of orders given, of searches underway. Her heart pounded. She knew they were looking for someone like her. One rider stepped closer to the cabin, glancing toward the door. "You sure you haven't seen anyone?" he asked. The rancher did not answer immediately. That pause felt endless. From her hiding place, she held her breath. "No," he said at last, "just me and the land." It was a lie, a dangerous one. She felt a surge of emotion she had not expected. Fear for him, real fear. If they did not believe him, everything could change in a moment. The riders exchanged looks. One dismounted and walked a short distance, scanning the area. Another asked more questions, his tone harder now. The rancher answered steadily, never raising his voice, never stepping back. Time stretched thin. At last, one rider shrugged. "Nothing here," he said. "Let's move on." They mounted up and rode away, dust rising behind them. Only when the sound faded completely did the rancher allow himself to breathe deeply. He turned toward the land, scanning the horizon. That was when he saw her. For a brief moment, neither of them moved. Then he walked toward her slowly, carefully, stopping a few steps away. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, not angry, not afraid, just honest. "I couldn't go forward," she replied. "There were too many signs," he nodded. "They're searching wider now." Silence settled between them. The danger was no longer distant. It was real and close, like a shadow that followed the land itself. "You need to leave again," he said. "Soon." She looked at him, really looked at him, the man who had chosen to lie. To risk everything he had, not because he owed her anything, but because he believed it was right. "They will come back," she said. "Yes," he answered. "They will." That night they did not sleep. They prepared. He gathered supplies quickly and quietly. She showed him ways to hide tracks better, ways to move that confused those who followed without listening to the land. They worked side by side, movements smooth, practiced, united by purpose. Before dawn, they spoke again, more openly than before. "There is another path," she said. "Longer, harder, but safer." "I'll take you," he replied without hesitation. They left before the light fully broke, moving away from the ranch in a direction few would expect. The land changed as they traveled, rocky ground, narrow passes, places where sound echoed strangely. She guided. He followed. Trust now lived between them, not spoken, but solid. At one point, they paused on a ridge overlooking a wide stretch of open land. Far in the distance, riders moved slowly, searching. She felt fear rise again, but it did not take control. She had faced it before. She knew how to breathe through it. "This is where we part," she said finally. He frowned slightly. "You're not far enough." "It's enough," she said. "If I go farther with you, I put you at greater risk." He knew she was right. Still, he did not like it. He handed her the remaining supplies. "Follow the dry river bed," he said. "It will hide you." She nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her hand over her heart and bowed her head slightly, a gesture of deep respect. "You changed the path of my life," she said. He shook his head. "You changed mine." They stood there for a moment longer, the land holding its breath around them. Then she turned and walked away, not looking back this time. She needed to focus on survival, on reaching home. The journey was long and exhausting. She moved mostly at night, resting during the day, blending into the land the way she had been taught since childhood. Every sound made her alert, every shadow mattered, but she was not alone anymore, not in the way she once was. The truth she carried gave her strength. Days later, she reached the edge of familiar territory. Signs known only to her people marked the land. Relief flooded through her so strongly that her legs nearly gave out. She was found by scouts before she could call out. Hands steadied her. Voices spoke her name. She was home. As she rested among her people, she told her story, not all of it. Some things were hers alone. But she spoke of a man who had chosen differently, who had stood between danger and someone he barely knew. Some listened with doubt, others with quiet understanding. Far away, the ranch stood empty. The rancher had left before trouble could return. He took only what he could carry and disappeared into the wide land, leaving behind the place that had become both shelter and risk. He did not regret it. The world was changing. Lines were being drawn deeper every day. But he knew now that even in a broken world, choices still mattered. And somewhere beyond the horizon, an Apache woman walked with new strength, carrying not just survival, but truth. Both of them moved forward, shaped forever by a moment when fear did not win, and humanity did. When the Apache woman returned fully to her people, life did not suddenly become easy. Safety did not mean peace, and home did not erase memory. The land welcomed her back with familiar sounds and smells, but her heart carried change. She was not the same woman who had been taken days before. Something inside her had shifted, quietly but deeply. Her people listened as she spoke. She shared where she had been, how she survived, and how the land itself had guided her home. She spoke carefully, choosing her words with respect. When she spoke of the rancher, she did not praise him as a hero, nor did she hide what he was. She simply told the truth, that he was a man who chose to protect instead of harm, who acted when it would have been easier to look away. Some nodded. Some remained silent. Trust was difficult for everyone now, not just her, but stories mattered. Stories shaped how people saw the world, and her story planted a quiet seed. As days turned into weeks, she returned to her daily life. She helped with food gathering, shared laughter with children, and sat with elders under the open sky. Yet at night, when the camp grew quiet, her thoughts wandered. She remembered the ranch at sunset, the way the wind moved across open land, the sound of steady footsteps that never came too close, yet never left her alone. She wondered where he was now. Far away, the rancher moved from place to place, never staying long. He traveled light, avoiding attention, blending into the wide land the best he could. The ranch had been a chapter, not a destination. Leaving it had not been easy, but it had been necessary. He thought often of the Apache woman, not with regret and not with longing, but with respect. She had reminded him of something he thought he had lost, the belief that choices could still matter even when the world felt broken. He worked where he could, fixed fences, helped travelers find water, spoke little of his past. He learned to listen more than talk, to watch the land the way she had taught him, without words. In quiet moments, he carried the woven token she had given him, a reminder that kindness could travel farther than fear. Seasons changed. The Apache woman grew stronger in her role among her people. Others came to her for guidance, not because she claimed wisdom, but because she had walked through danger and returned with clarity. She encouraged patience, awareness, the understanding that not every unknown face carried harm, but also that caution should never be abandoned. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with soft color, she stood at the edge of camp and looked toward the horizon. She did not expect to see him. She did not wait for signs, but she allowed herself to remember. She understood now that freedom was not only about escape. It was also about choice, about deciding who you became after fear. The land remained uncertain. Struggles continued. But something important had been gained, a truth that could not be taken away. That even in a time shaped by loss and division, individuals still held the power to act with care. Years later, the story would be told again, not as rumor, not as legend, but as a quiet reminder passed from one generation to the next. A story about an Apache woman who survived not just by strength, but by awareness, and a rancher who chose humanity over silence. Their paths never crossed again. They did not need to. Both carried forward, shaped by a moment when fear did not decide the outcome. And that, more than anything, was the ending that mattered.